salad and our tomatoes. And then the next one, I asked you if you lived on an organic farm in California, you could see the beautiful fresh spinach that was picked. And then we have this nice woman out in the surf with her little sundress on, getting her vitamin D and her sunshine. And then I have a nice picture of my beautiful wife, Susan, with our cat. Susan's asleep, and the cat is like, how do I get out of here? Poor little kitty trying to get away. Okay, so the reason we talk about, obviously I mentioned it, the sunshine is important for your vitamin D. It's the #1 way we get vitamin D. And sleeping helps to balance your hormones, right? Because if we don't get enough sleep, we end up having high cortisol levels, low melatonin levels. And our body does a lot of neurological repair when we sleep, repairing your brain and nervous system. And you also get a huge liver cleanse while you're sleeping. That's why a lot of the vitamins and supplements we're going to talk about later in the broadcast are designed to be taken at nighttime because they help with liver cleanse. Do you exercise regularly? And do you manage your stress levels well? Well, what do we know about exercise from the last 7 weeks? We have the 2 B's and the 2 H's, right? We want breathlessness and burning. We want to go heavy, and we want to create a lot of heat. That's how we know that we're getting a lactic acid response. And for those who are listening to me for the first time, all my regular Eat Clean, Get Lean people know that lactic acid is the key that unlocks the door to all the healing compounds, the testosterone, human growth hormone, all the other tissue repair hormones, right? So we get to heal our body. And do you manage your stress well? You know, stress is keeping your blood sugar balanced, right? Trying to use things like cacao to help increase serotonin and dopamine levels, getting enough sleep, okay? Dealing with your issues in a very positive manner, being more solution-oriented than problem-oriented, right? So this begs the question, you know, if it's potentially possible that you're not getting all the nutrients you need from the foods that you eat. The next question is, so what happened to whole, natural, organic food? How come it's so hard to obtain these days? Let's tell a little story here. Here we have a couple pictures. We have a beautiful mountain and a mountain stream in the left-hand side, and you see the fertile fields on the right. And I used to tell a story every year since the dawn of time, the mineral-rich mountain streams would flood the fields to ensure a healthy crop for the next growing season. The Nile, the Mississippi, the Amazon, all the major growing plains that fed the world, right? So we have all these huge, rich minerals coming down from the mountains. They flood the fields, and they get it ready for the next growing season. But we have some problems here. Things have changed. Here is a dike that was being built on the Mississippi to stop the yearly flooding, thus stopping minerals from being distributed in a manner that was done for millions of years prior. So now we don't have the same mineral-rich soils because, you know, we need commerce. We got to get up and down the Mississippi. We want to build towns along the Mississippi. We can't have flooding all the time. Nobody's going to want to live there. Okay, so when the soil becomes depleted, the plants can no longer supply those vital minerals you're looking for in your plant food, and neither can the cows, steers, pigs, and fowl that you're consuming as well. So if the animals that you're consuming are not eating mineral and vitamin enriched plant food, then you're not eating, you're not gaining the benefit of that plant food when you consume animals, whether it be milk or cheese or beef or chicken or pork. So how are we still farming? How are things still being grown in 2014 or now 2015? It's an old slide here. You know, what are we doing in order to ensure that food continues to grow? Well, modern science has come up with some very unique things. Some of them are good, some of them maybe not so good. Let's have a discussion. Well, we know that they've been able to isolate nitrogen, and they can put that back into the soil, and they also have other synthetic compounds that are used in the growing of fruits and vegetables and so forth, grains. The problem is with the synthetic elements is that our body is like a barcode reader. We're going to talk a little bit about this in just a few more minutes. And these are relatively new chemical products that are being produced in labs and then are being used in our environment. And the problem is that since our body are nothing more than big barcode readers, if we don't recognize the barcode or the genetic sequence on a certain product, our body doesn't know what to do with it. It takes about 100,000 years to change a human genome 1/10 of 1%. So most of the stuff that's being introduced to your body right now has only been developed, say, in the last 15, 20 years. So our body doesn't know what to do with it. It creates a real problem. Let's talk a little bit about nitrogen. Nitrogen happens to be a real big problem down here at the Jersey Shore. Anyone who lives down here knows about Barnegat Bay and how Barnegat Bay is pretty much a dead bay right now. Nothing really grows in there except sea nettles, which are stinging jellyfish and algae. The fish population's gone real down. And if your livelihood depends on pulling shellfish like crabs and clams and mussels and scallops out of Barnegat Bay, you're really in deep trouble because they're not growing very well because of the nitrogen that's been deposited in Barnegat Bay from making sure that people's lawns stay green all year round. There's a, we talk about the nitrogen, okay, yet this modern miracle exacts the price. Runaway nitrogen is suffocating wildlife in lakes and estuaries, contaminating groundwater, and even warming the globe's climate. As a hungry world looks ahead to billions more mouths needing nitrogen-rich protein, how much clean water and air will survive our demand for fertile fields? Now, there's a problem with nitrogen getting into our groundwater. There was a study that was done at the University of Wisconsin, and they discovered that the common fertilizer nitrate, when tested on mice, caused endocrine, which is your hormones, your immune system, and nervous system malfunctions. Birth defects were also a common occurrence in mice forced to drink nitrate-laden water. Not only can inorganic fertilizer cause health problems, it can even lead to death if it's ingested. Okay, and that was a study that was done up at the University of Wisconsin. So there are health problems from inorganic fertilizers and our farming process. So organic farming helps. Now, we're also very fortunate that in certain sections of Monmouth County by me, like Howell and Farmingdale and Jackson, even parts of Wall Township, we have some organic farming going on. As a matter of fact, in the summertime, something very popular down here are the farmers markets. And we have one right here in Manasquan, right off of Main Street. And Susan and I make sure that once that opens and we see that it opened, we get down there and we try to support the local farmers, okay? Because if they continue to be supported by us, they'll continue their organic farming practices. And there's also some other opportunities that for the winter time where food is actually brought in. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking of LR Farms right now. It has a program like that, but I digress. There's a glimpse of a solution on a farm just outside a small town of Harlan in western Iowa. Here about 90 cattle graze on green pastures and a few hundred pigs root about in beds of straw surrounded by fields of alfalfa, corn, soybeans, oats, and barley. Now, follow me on this one. There's a couple, Ron and Maria, and they spread no nitrogen fertilizer on these fields, at least not the kind that comes from factories. Instead, it's added biologically by nitrogen-fixing bacteria that live in nodules on the roots of legume plants or crops like soybeans, alfalfa, and a cover crop that Ron plants in the fall. Not only to till it back into the soil before he plants corn in the spring. So organic farming does exist in this country, but you can see it takes a lot more work to do this than it does to take a tractor out and spread nitrogen through the fields. The problem with spreading the nitrogen in is there's no minerals involved in the nitrogen. Basically, they're just depositing that in order to get the stuff to grow. But what is the nutritional value of food if there's no minerals in the ground? Let me flip to the next slide. Okay, before I go on to this slide, let me say this too. In the soil are certain microbes, bacteria, for lack of better terms, that allows the roots of the plants to absorb the vitamins and the minerals out of the soil. Those same microbes that are in the soil are in the gut lining of your small intestines, where we absorb a lot of our nutrients from. Okay, so that's also called the good bacteria, and that's why a lot of people take probiotics. We'll talk a little bit about that in a few minutes. But if the soil is depleted of these microbes because of poor farming practices, not allowing the field to go fallow, not allowing you to grow a ground cover of clover and alfalfa and soybeans, and then turning it back into the soil to provide nutrients for next year's crop, the plant food that you're eating does not have the nutritionally dense vitamins and minerals in it, so you're not able to absorb them. You can't absorb something that's not there. Now, let's get back to reality for a moment. Not all of us are living on an organic farm in Southern California where we get fresh food grown in good soil and sunshine and sleeping 8 hours a night. A lot of our food comes from Asia and South America, and it looks a little different from the farmer's market here in Manasquan. So here you see an actual barge, for lack of better terms, a huge barge carrying containers of food from South America. And obviously that was not picked yesterday and delivered to your doorstep today. Fruit and vegetables picked before ripeness are nutritionally deficient and lose what little they had in the process of shipping. Okay, there's a really great video from a formulator of vitamins, and he talks about an orange rolling across the floor and hitting the wall can lose a lot of its vitamin C. So what happens to an orange that's picked 1,000 miles away from here and is carted up either on a railroad train or a truck or a boat? It's going to lose some of its vitamin C. All right, so let's talk about the RDA real quick. That's a recommended daily allowance. Okay, and what does that mean? The definition of that is the amount of an essential nutrient as a vitamin or mineral that has been established by the National Nutrition Board of the National Academy of Sciences as adequate to meet the average daily nutrition needs of most healthy persons, specific to age groups and genders. Just so you know, these numbers are influenced by the AMA, the American Dairy Board, the sugar manufacturers, and of course the seed manufacturers, namely Monsanto. It should also be known that these numbers reflect the minimum to prevent disease, not to raise a growing and thriving child. If you remember back, we talked briefly about World War I. We were sending men off to fight in World War I, and they were being turned away because they were suffering from malnutrition. And a lot of the foods back then were being canned, and in the processing, they were losing a lot of their vitamins and minerals. Same thing we saw with grains, with breads, and with dairy. So if you look on any loaf of bread, it's going to say enriched with these vitamins and minerals. Or if you look on a container of milk, it'll say fortified with vitamin A and D. Okay, not to get too far off the topic here, but a lot of these vitamins and minerals that they're supplementing these foods with are synthetic. And again, they're not readily available to the body. They're not bioavailable. Our body doesn't recognize them, and therefore the utilization is very, very low. Okay, so a lot of people argue with me about the need for genetically modified organisms, because this is how we can raise more crops and we could feed a hungry world. Because if we don't have these crops, or if these crops don't grow, we can't feed people and we'll have huge amounts of starvation. It's not necessarily true. That's a whole different argument for a different night. But let me just talk to you a little bit about what is GMO and why should you really care about it. GMO stands for genetically modified organism. It is not what was here for thousands of years, but rather modified in the lab to be resistant to the chemicals that are sprayed upon the plant, such as a spray that would be a herbicide called Roundup. Monsanto has made a seed that produces a plant that does not die when sprayed with Roundup. Roundup is a herbicide, it's a defoliant. Okay, now, as I said earlier, our microvilli are barcode readers which are located in our small intestines. And when the GMO product hits the small intestines and our barcode reader does not recognize that item as food, it treats it like a foreign protein and thus begins the autoimmune response. Autoimmune could be things like lupus, MS, rheumatoid arthritis, diabetes, and many, many more. Now, the truth of the matter is not everyone is susceptible to the same level of autoimmune disease as others. Like not everybody has lupus, okay? But what other things do we see with people on a day-to-day basis? Well, we see a lot of people who are type 2 diabetic. We see a lot of people that have high cholesterol. I see people with hypertension. I see people with chronic aches and pains in their joints, osteoarthritis. I see a lot of people who have trouble paying attention. They have, I guess what you would call lack of mental focus. So not everybody has full-blown autoimmune disease, but a lot of people that aren't eating properly are suffering to a lesser extent. To a lesser extent where, it doesn't affect them on a moment-by-moment basis, but it certainly does affect their lifestyle. My father would tell this story. He was walking down the street and sees a friend up on his porch, and he walks up and he says hello to his friend. He looks over in the corner and he sees a dog, and the dog's laying in the corner, and the dog is making all kinds of noise and moving around a little bit. So my dad says to his friend, "What's wrong with your dog?" And he's like, "Oh, he's over there. He must be laying on an old nail or something that came up through the floorboards." My dad goes, "Why doesn't he move?" And the guy looks my father in the eye and goes, "Because it doesn't hurt him enough yet." Okay, that's a lot of people that we see out there. They're kind of flying under the radar, and then they hit what I call a speed bump, and and everything flies out of the shopping cart. Okay, because they're not ready for that next big hit. They're living at a level that's tolerable, and then they hit a speed bump, and then a big problem occurs. So we want to be in a situation where we have optimal health and wellness so that when life comes at us, we're able to fight it off or at least survive the incident, okay? So next question always comes up is, Mike, what's the big deal, excuse me, with spraying plants? Why is spraying a plant with herbicides, fungicides, pesticides, why does it make the plant weaker? Well, plants have a natural immune system. It's called salvestrols. And when pesticides are sprayed on a plant, along with other herbicides and fungicides, they do not allow the plant to develop salvestrols, which produces a weaker seed. In addition, when either given to the farm animal or us humans consume the plant, we do not get the salvestrols in our diet. We do not harness the plant's natural immune properties, and we get weaker too. So here's another way. We have poor soil, poor farming practices, which produce a less robust plant, and we eat that plant food, or we eat something like a cow or a chicken or a pig or a lamb that is also consuming this weaker plant food, and we progressively get weaker. So for those who said, I get all my nutrition through food, how sure are you now? So let's talk about the first slide you guys saw is why we need nutrition insurance, okay? So we have auto insurance, we have health insurance, we have homeowners insurance, we have life insurance, and for some of us who own businesses, we have business insurance. We pay all this monthly. And health insurance could be somewhere between $1,500 to $2,000 a month for a family, okay? That's for a small business owners. That's what I look at every month. Some people say, well, I have a job, I pay about $400 a month or $500 a month. Well, that's great. I need that deal. I pay a little more than that. Homeowners insurance plus flood insurance if you live down here at the shore, life insurance, auto insurance, business insurance. We're all paying over $2,000 a month for all these various insurances. And the truth of the matter is, and you hope you never need to use them, right? Nobody wants to have to use their auto insurance. It means it's got into a bad accident, or certainly you don't want to have to use your life insurance, right? You're glad you have it if you need it, but you certainly don't want to have to use it. All right, so the rest of this talk is going to be me talking about my case as to why I feel you do need to supplement your diet, okay? And I'll try to take you through a logical progression And again, at the end of this, we'll have plenty of time for questions. So for those who follow the news, we all know that the New York State Attorney General's office just targeted supplements at some of the major retailers. The authorities said they had conducted tests on top-selling store brands of herbal supplements at 4 national retailers, GNC, Target, Walgreens, and Walmart, and found out that 4 out of 5 of the products did not contain any of the herbs on their labels. The test showed that these pills labeled medicinal herbs often contain little more than cheap fillers like powdered rice, asparagus, and houseplants, and in some cases, substances that could be dangerous to people with allergies. So if there was something in it that was like a wheat product or a gluten product, and you have Asperger's, sorry, no, that could be a part of it too. If you have, some things that would, some gluten intolerances, this could be a real problem for you. Okay, and this came from the New York Times what was it, back in February 3rd. Okay, so there's a lot of questions about Mike, you're telling me I need to take supplements, but who can I trust with my vitamins and my supplements? Well, there was a report back on Fox News on February 26th, and Logan Stout, who happens to be the CEO of ID Life, a company that I'm affiliated with, and most people know that by now, went on live and they talked about this very subject. So let me talk to you a little bit about detail what I would consider something for you to look at if you're going to be supplementing your diet with vitamins, minerals, and supplements. So what is nutrition insurance? My definition of nutrition insurance is the consumption of a pharmaceutical grade vitamin, mineral, or other food supplement that are recommended to an individual based on a HIPAA compliant assessment, which investigates age, gender, geographic location, where do you live, what season are you in, your current diet, sleep patterns, activity levels, body composition, family medical history, an individual's past medical history, current health conditions, and any medications you're on, whether it be over-the-counter or prescription medications. Okay, so the last thing we talked about is, why is it so important with the medications I'm on? Well, certain medications block the absorption of certain key vitamins and minerals, or block the body's ability to produce substrates that help the body to survive. I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you 2 examples, okay? This is the one I think is pretty much almost common knowledge. If you happen to be on a statin drug like Crestor or Lipitor, okay, this blocks the body's ability to make something called coenzyme Q10. One of the side effects of taking a statin drug, they say, is if you have unusual pain or weakness associated with taking this drug, please see your physician immediately. And I can't tell you, in the years that I've been practicing, I have someone, I've been training them for months. They're perfectly fine. They go to the doctor, they get a prescription for a statin drug, they start taking it. Sorry guys, I had to take a sip there, I'm losing my voice. And all of a sudden, they're dropping 20, 30 pounds off their bench press, they're in pain all the time, and I'm sending them right back to the doctor. And it's because they had a bad reaction to the medication they were on. So most doctors will counsel their patients saying, okay, I'm putting you on a statin drug, you need to take coenzyme Q10 as a supplement to counteract the effects of the statin drug. Okay, so that's one example. There are certain chemotherapy drugs that block the absorption of certain key vitamins and minerals. Okay, so that's something you need to speak with your oncologist about. Okay, and the other example too is if you're taking something like Synthroid. Okay, Synthroid, you can't take any vitamins or minerals, or specifically minerals like calcium or iron or magnesium, within 4 hours of taking your Synthroid, or it makes the Synthroid inactive. So these are the kind of things that are very, very important for people to know before they start taking any type of vitamin or supplement. So a good, HIPAA compliant assessment will certainly help them to identify these things. Now, I also have another friend who was undergoing chemo for cancer, and she asked the pharmacist, what should I be taking to help me to keep my body strong? You know, I understand there's certain chemotherapy drugs that I may or may not be taking here that can block the absorption of certain key vitamins and minerals. And the answer she got from two pharmacists, and this is kind of a crime in a way, is, well, most of that is contained in the medical literature, but I don't really have the time or the ability to start searching all that. So isn't it nice to know that we have a HIPAA compliant assessment that does that for us? That it's based on 7,000 clinical studies. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, in 5 seconds, you can get the answer to these questions where, you know, for people to scour through medical journals to try to figure all this out sometimes could be a real problem. And the other problem you have to understand too is that medications are changing on a day-to-day basis now. There's new medications that are being prescribed. So we need someone who's able to stay on top of that for us, who's going to allow us to identify, you know, what vitamins, minerals, or supplements we should be taking in response to these new medications. So the question begs, does this technology even exist? Well, it didn't when this picture was taken. Here's a beautiful picture of my 2 kids, Molly and Michael. This picture's got to be at least 10 years old, if not more than that. And they still get along, believe it or not. Although Molly's hair doesn't look quite like that anymore. For those who know my daughter Molly, her hair's changed a little bit, but Mikey still keeps his hair short. Well, a couple months ago, KM Fitness partnered with a new company called ID Life. And what got me involved with this company obviously was the pharmaceutical grade product and the HIPAA compliant assessment. That's what kind of got me interested, because again, my goal is to work with people's nutrition, their exercise, their stress management, and people come to me with a whole host of different health issues. And again, to be honest with you, I'm one person. I don't really have a lot of time to go through and start reading through all the medical journals. Now, the internet certainly has helped, but it's still a time-consuming practice. Well, I don't need to do that anymore, because with the HIPAA compliant assessment through ID Life, I have my clients take the assessment, and in just a matter of minutes, they find out what they should be taking or what they shouldn't be taking and how they should take it. So a couple things about ID Life you need to know is there's no soy. Soy has been a real problem, especially with some of my male clients. It does increase the amount of estrogen in the body, and it does affect the man's physiology significantly. Also, most of us are not genetically designed to digest soy, where most of us who are on the phone with me right now are from Northern European descent, and there's no soy in Ireland. There's no GMOs, no genetically modified organisms, no casein, no lactose, no artificial sweeteners. The #1 complaint that the FDA gets every year is from NutraSweet. Okay, that's your equal packets. More problems have occurred with NutraSweet than any other artificial sweetener. And I have pulled people off of Splenda, and I pulled them off NutraSweet, and pulled them off diet soda, and their fibromyalgia went away. And a lot of their stomach disorders went away. We have no, by the way, our products are sweetened with stevia, which is a natural herb. No food chemicals, no food additives. Remember back when we were talking about the weight regulating mechanism in the brain and the hypothalamus? And what is that affected by? It's affected by exercise, stress, blood sugar stability, and food chemicals and food additives, right? And there's also no wheat product, and they're all gluten-free. So here's some more good news. Okay, so let me show you the assessment tool real quick. Okay, the first page of the assessment tool is about, tell us about yourself. It's a personal assessment. We look at things like height and weight and age and gender, any allergies you may have, what season is it, what geographic do you live in, and how much sunlight are you getting. These are all things that we kind of touch base on. The next page talks about your dietary patterns. How much fruit do you eat a day? How much vegetables do you eat a day? What's your protein intake like? What kind of fats are you eating? Are you eating healthy fats, or are you eating processed foods? Are you using sweeteners and sugar? Those sort of things. Next is lifestyle. Do you consume alcohol? If so, how much? Do you smoke? If so, how much? When did you quit? What kind of sleep are you getting? Are you exposed to secondhand smoke? Your physical well-being. Exercise. How much do you exercise? What kind of exercise are you doing? Do you have any joint pain? What's your bone health like? Are you concerned about your immune system? Okay, things that you look at every day with regards to how physically mental. What's your mental energy like? What's your physical energy like? Okay, any medical conditions? Any pre-existing disease, conditions, and injuries? This is really cool. This little drop-down menu that you click on, and it goes through all the different diseases and conditions that are affected by vitamins and minerals, and it speaks to regard to all the current literature. So someone asked me, well, I looked up something that's over the counter and it's not in your database, and the truth of the matter is there's no significant journal article that talks about whether vitamins or minerals would affect that particular over-the-counter pharmaceutical. So if it doesn't exist in competent literature, then it wouldn't be listed. And again, your medications, both over-the-counter and prescription. So at the end of this, you get a nice little video result, which I think is pretty cool, because it's like a 3-minute video, and it talks to you about the results of your test. And then you also get a printed report. The nice thing about this printed report, along with something I'm going to show you in just a few minutes, you can actually bring this to your physician with you and say, based on this HIPAA compliant assessment, this is where some of my strengths are, some of my weaknesses are, and also here's my recommendations for the vitamins and minerals I should be taking, supplements I should be taking, and it gives you a complete list of everything that's included in your particular individualized designed nutrition program. And this, of course, is a nice video that explains the vitamin supplement recommendations, and again, these are based on over 7,000 clinical studies, which I think is pretty cool. And then you get your recommendations, okay? What you should be taking, when you should take it, the amount you should be taking, and why, which I think is pretty cool. So if you look at the screen here, let's look at omega-3 complex. You're going to see a little question mark next to it, right? So you click on that little question mark, and it tells you what omega-3 complex is. Okay, so you say, okay, now I understand what that is, and we're going to look at something called spirulina complex, right? And well, what the heck is that? And it goes into that. So it gives you a nice explanation as to what that particular vitamin mineral supplement is. As you go from the left to the right, so let's look at the omega-3 complex. You look across and you see the number 1, okay, and then there's a plus or minus sign. So if you went to your doctor and he says, well, you're taking this many milligrams, I really think you should be taking more. Well, in order to change your recommendation, you can just hit the plus sign. You could end up taking 2, which is pretty cool. Then you look and you see little moons and you see little suns there as well. So if you look from top to bottom, right? The moons mean you should be taking that at nighttime when your body's going through its maintenance and repair, right? When earlier we talked about neurological repair, we talked about the liver being cleansed at nighttime. So there are certain supplements that help to facilitate the cleansing process of the body. So people say to me, well, what kind of cleanse should I be doing? Well, you should be exercising, you should be sleeping, you should be drinking plenty of water, and eating a very strong nutrition-based food program and supplementing, and your body will naturally cleanse itself. That's my answer. And then the next thing you see is a Y button. And let me show you that, because that's pretty cool. Okay, I can't make this any bigger, so you might have to lean into your screen a little bit. I did the best I could. When you click on that Y button, for any of the different supplements that are here, it'll tell you why you're taking it. So for example, this happens to be the reasons for taking spirulina complex. And it says reason based for answer. It says bone health satisfactory. And it talks about the levels of beta carotene and other carotenoids were consistently lower. when measured in women with osteoporosis, there may be a bone-sparing effect of this particular product. And then the evidence, the nutritional evidence, though the juried articles and medical journals that reference this are listed under evidence. And you could literally go in there, highlight the journal and the article, the volume, the page number, the year it was printed, highlight that, put that into a Google search bar, and you can read the entire article. So I think that's pretty cool too. So the why you're taking it is very, very important. Now, if anybody wants to take that free assessment, they can go to mikekeenan520.idlife.com and you take a free assessment. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to purchase anything. All you have to do is go to my website, and you can see at the top of the screen, it says, take your free assessment now. And you just click on that. It'll take you through a little Troy Aikman video. Troy Aikman's in the middle of our screen. He happens to be our national spokesperson and one of the investors in the company as well, which I think is pretty cool. Looking forward to meeting him shortly. And you could take your free assessment. And when you go through the assessment, you'll do just what we just did on the screen. And then you have the ability to print that out for free. You can look at the vitamins that are recommended to you for free. You can print out all the vitamins that are included in your individual program for free. And you can take that to your doctor and discuss it with them and see if adding supplements to your diet is something that will help with your current medical condition. Now, we've talked a lot about medical fitness because that happens to be my specialty. But what if you're a triathlete that's getting ready for competition? Does any of this work too? Well, yeah. Well, now you're doing performance planning, and you need even better nutrition in order to perform better. So if you think you need good nutrition just to get healthy, you can imagine what you need to take it to the next level and bring it to competition. So there's a lot of athletes that are involved in, with nutrition and supplements. I mean, it's a whole industry. My goodness, you can't go into a shopping mall without running into a GNC or a vitamin shop, right? So this isn't just Mike here on the corner of Main Street telling you need to take vitamins. I think it's pretty globally accepted that vitamins, minerals, and supplements are helping people achieve optimal health and wellness. Question is, who do you trust? Who's going to give you the quality product you're looking for, and can they back it up with research? And I certainly will tell you, I have found this with ID Life. Now remember, I've been in this business a long time, and there's people online with me right now who've been with me for 12 or more years since I moved to Manasquan. And they'll tell you, in those 12 years, I've never put my name on a product. I've never endorsed anything before. As a matter of fact, I made the guy who owns the health food store across the street from me very, very wealthy, because I said, these products are pretty good. Why don't you go talk to Jeff, and he'll sell you what you need, okay? And I did that because, honestly, I wanted my clients to have the absolute best products that were available. Well, once I found them, I decided that I'm going to be able to counsel them a whole lot better. I know their conditions. I know their situations, and I have a great HIPAA compliant assessment in order to help them. So that's why we did what we did. All right, that's the end of my slideshow, guys. Let me go ahead and open up my Google. Dun, 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 dun. And I can go back to here, and I can go back to chat. Let me go here. Here we go. All right, so now's the time for me to answer any questions. I hope, certainly, at this point, I have answered your questions with regards to, or at least made my case as to why I feel that vitamins, minerals, and supplements should be part of everyone's diet, because I don't believe that most people are going to get everything they need. I mean, I'm just going to talk while I'm waiting for questions to come up. Does anybody get up in the morning and have their, 8 ounces of spinach and their 2 eggs and their turkey bacon and, maybe some fruit? Are they eating a green salad for lunch with organic salmon and avocado? And are they eating, organic potato at nighttime? Or are we hitting McDonald's for lunch, having pizza, hitting the Chinese restaurant, maybe going out to eat, that sort of thing. You know, you have to examine your lifestyle and what's your sleep like, what's your energy like, and all these things. So that's, oh good, someone says I love my vitamins, yay. Okay. So these are the things that that I examine. You know, when we talk about if people haven't been on the calls with me, it's the first time you're hearing me. My normal group will always hear me talk about, you know, is your heck in check? What's your hunger like? What's your energy like? And what are your cravings like? Okay, and we use a scale from 0 to 10. So if your hunger is a 5 or less, well, that's not too bad. Then we can handle that. If your cravings are a 5 or less, well, we probably can handle that too. And if your energy is a 5 or more, 6 or more, we're in a good place. Now, on top of that, if your heck is in check, well, what's your fat loss like? A lot of my clients are coming to me because their goal is fat loss, okay? So if your heck is in check, but you're not losing weight, there's a problem there. We need to address that. Conversely, if you're losing weight, but your hunger's through the roof, your craving is really, really high, and your energy is dropping. What do we know about when your energy drops? You have no ambition to exercise, and you stop exercising. So the first thing we look to do before you lose any weight is make sure we're getting your heck in check, okay? And that allows us to have the proper attitude to go out and exercise, and then we can start to examine why you're not losing weight. And of course, what are we going to adjust again with that? We're going to start to look at carbohydrates and fat intake in the meals. That's where the shakes have come in real handy with most of us, because it allows us to have that quick meal in the morning. We don't have to worry about going to the bagel shop. All right, so here's what we're going to do. I don't have any other questions coming through. I'll do what I do every Wednesday night after we're done here. I'm going to go back to Facebook, and I'm going to hang out over at Keenan Fitness, and I'm going to go to Keenan Fitness tonight because there's a lot of people that aren't in the VIP group that are on the call tonight. And if you have questions, I'll hang out there and I'll answer your questions there. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. I certainly hope that you got a lot of good information. Learned a little bit about GMOs, learned a little bit about organic farming, learned about the different practices we have here for farming in the United States and overseas. And I'll look forward to talking to everybody real soon. If you need some more information about ID Life, you certainly can contact me. And if you want to take that free assessment, again, I'll post that in Facebook. It's Mike Keenan, 520.idlife.com. All right. Everybody have a great night. And oh, that reminds me, next Wednesday night, we're going to move it to we're going to move to Thursday. I have an event I have to be at next Wednesday night. Very, very important. So we cannot meet next Wednesday night. We're going to meet on a Thursday night instead. Okay. But you'll get a lot of information. I'll make sure Susan gets that into everyone's email. Have a great night. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.